Project Mkultra by Danny Carr. The background. Who? The Central Intelligence Agency and their test victims. The what? The illegal experimental tests using drugs, trying to accomplish mind control and hypnosis. Where? In the United States. When? From 1953 to 1964. Although there are other dates with other sub-projects stemming from Mkultra, those sources are not as valid as the sources I will be using, and I will be only sticking with these dates. How? The CIA would use lower socioeconomic class citizens and trick them into manipulative testing and torture. Angles of importance. This case is extremely important in the fact that this occurred in the last 100 years and was also tried to be hidden from the public. Two major angles that came from this case were the following. Distrust. A major feeling that may result from this case would be the distrustment in the government, its agencies, and their executives due to the fact that what was done was objectively wrong. Another point to distrust would be the fact that it was attempted to be hidden from the public, which moves on to my next point. Secretive. The CIA attempted to disband and rid all evidence from this experiments, and these in an attempt to hide the horrors from the public, for their own benefit, not the public's. Allen Dulles, the CIA director from 1951 to 1963. Richard Helms, the CIA director from 1966 to 1973. Admiral Stansfield Turner, the CIA director from 1977 to 1981. Sidney Gottlieb, the agency chemist and poison expert working on the Mkultra project. Frank Church, the head of the Church Committee, who was working to testify against the CIA and the horrors they worked with in Mkultra. And Nelson Rockefeller, the vice president and head of Rockefeller Commission, working with Frank Church. The main characters. Allen Dulles on the left, Richard Helms in the middle, Admiral Stansfield Turner on the right. Sidney Gottlieb on the left, Frank Church in the middle, and Nelson Rockefeller on the right. CIA involvement. The CIA administered Project Mkultra by using testing facilities at 86 major universities and using U.S. citizens as test subject, with the majority of it being unknown to the subject and the universities. In January 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms instructed all evidence to be destroyed, and after any CIA worker who was asked about the project had zero recollection of it. After the destruction of the evidence, in 1975, information had resurfaced and it was brought to the attention of Congress by the Church Committee. For the first few years, they were struggling to work with evidence, considering they only had testimony of victims and a small amount of files that survived the initial destruction. In 1977, a vast amount of files came back to light and is what was mainly used to investigate the CIA and their involvement in the project Mkultra. The test subjects. The CIA were using lower socioeconomic class citizens, such as prostitutes, homeless, drug addicts, mental patients, prisoners, etc., to implement their experiments. A main experiment was that LSD, a Schedule I hallucinogen, would be administered to the test subject to see how they would react. This was all without their consent, which would be breaking the Nuremberg Code. Article 1 of the Nuremberg Code states that voluntary consent of human subject is absolutely essential. From the 1977 hearing, it was stated that to lure some victims into testing, officials would bribe heroin addicts with more heroin. Also from the same hearing, it was stated that officials would wait around bars and kidnap drunk civilians and take them back to the facilities to carry on with their testing. The CIA duped around 86 universities and over 130 physicians and psychiatrists throughout the country into administering their tests without their prior knowledge. There are no exact locations due to the destruction, but There have been names of cities like San Francisco and New York, and universities like Stanford, Rutgers, and Columbia, but these are not reliable and could be wrong. The CIA's main purpose. Admiral Turner states in the 1977 hearing, MKUltra was an umbrella project under which there are numerous sub-projects for research, among other things on drug and behavioral modification. In that, he says behavioral modification and on drugs. Two main points to MKUltra being a mind control and drug experimental tests administered by the CIA. During this time, mind control was also highly sought after by all large world powers. During the time of this project was the Cold War, in which Soviets were said to be using new forms of mind techniques and torture. It is safe to assume that the CIA was going after similar tactics to the Soviet to try and possibly gain a leg up on them. Admiral Turner himself states that the project was sought out to be a behavioral modification experiment. The effects current and over time. In a journal written by one of the physicians who participated in one of the experiments for the Rutgers University, Richard Stevenson states that he was informed over 15 years after the fact that he had actually taken place in the MKUltra. Although he assumed through the years, he was finally informed over 15 years later. Presumably, over time, the victims of the CIA and their project MKUltra slowly began realizing what they were a part of. As a researcher of this topic, it is fair to say that there is information on this topic, but it is censored, and one could assume that there is still more to be uncovered. When using different browsers, different results with reliable sources appear, such as when I used Google to search MKUltra, I had different results come up when I used a different search engine. I won't name it, but it doesn't really matter. This is relevant to today's society because we are at a time of possible censorship of our own. From 1973 to today's society, there are numerous occasions of times information is hidden from the public. Now, the list would be too long to go on from there, but very much so, censorship. Here are my sources, and that is all.